Hello everyone and welcome to another video. This is one I've been wanting to make for a long time now because I think there's a lot of misinformation swirling around out there about the safety or lack thereof of vaccinations for newborns, infants, and young children. I know this is kind of a hot button issue, especially recently with the whole big global thing that's been going on and all those words we're not allowed to say here on YouTube. But it seems we are so divided as a culture over every little thing these days. And so I wanted to offer what I hope is a perspective that is reasonable and level-headed in these otherwise crazy times. So today I'm going to share my insights based on the research I've done about having your child vaccinated. But before we get into all that, I want to preface what I'm about to say by letting you know that I am not a doctor. There's no MD after my name, and nothing in this video should be considered medical advice. So if you take anything I'm about to say as medical advice of any kind, you are wrong. It's bad, and you shouldn't do it. My wife and I are parents, like you probably are if you're watching this video, and we want to share our experiences and our knowledge with you in hopes that it will help you to make a more informed decision on how you approach your child's health treatment plan. That said, we always recommend talking to your doctor first and foremost about any medical issue. But we also recommend that if you're not satisfied after you talk to your doctor, go see another one. Get a second opinion and a third opinion if you need to. Because regardless of how much medical training or how many degrees or certifications that an individual may have hanging on the wall above their desk, doctors are still people at the end of the day, and people are sometimes informed not only by their education, but also by their personal biases and experiences outside of the classroom, which is why not all medical experts agree on every single thing. Now, with that out of the way, I will tell you I've done some research on vaccinations out of what I think is a natural level of concern for my child, including talking to doctors about this subject in particular. So, having your newborn or infant vaccinated, is it dangerous? Is it unhealthy? Is it harmful in any way? Well, the answer is probably not, as long as you know the things you need to watch out for. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. The conclusion that I've come to, and what I believe personally, is that while modern medicine does have a lot of great things going for it, it also hasn't been around all that long. When you compare our current medical knowledge against the span of known human existence, it wasn't too long ago that we were putting leeches on people and drilling holes in their heads. Yeah, look it up. Those are actual things that happened. Practices and procedures in the medical field are constantly changing, and it seems like every few months a new study comes out that contradicts something we thought we knew about health or nutrition or medicine. And of course, we can't rule out the likelihood that at some time in the past, there were favors done behind closed doors or funding of some kind exchanged hands that in some way has affected the laws that govern our healthcare and pharmaceutical industries today. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying that definitely happened. I'm not saying it didn't. I'm just saying that the possibility is always there. So my point is that regardless of the countless scientific and technological advances we've seen over the past 10, 20, 50 years, there are still a whole lot of question marks out there. There's so much that we just don't know. So regardless of what source you choose to use or go with, you got to take everything you read or hear with a grain of salt. Many health studies are funded based on their future financial viability. So there are some areas in healthcare that probably should be the subject of multiple studies, but they just aren't because there's no money behind them. And so aside from government grants, there are a few entities in the private sector who are willing to fund them. So how can you keep your newborn safe while also making sure they're getting the protection they need against disease? Well, there are certain ingredients in some vaccines, and I emphasize that it's only some of them, that we know for a fact are harmful to the human body, even in tiny, minuscule amounts. The major one of these to look out for is a preservative called thimerosal, which is an organic compound that contains mercury and is used in multi-dose flu vaccines, among others. According to the CDC, thimerosal is used to prevent the growth of dangerous microbes, which can contaminate these multi-dose vials each time a new needle is inserted. And since these multi-dose vials have to be sitting around for a certain period of time in between doses that are administered to different patients, they've got to have something to protect against this bacterial growth. Because the growth of bacteria in a viral vaccine can actually end up being far more harmful to you than the preservative itself. Thimerosal is also used during the manufacturing process in 2 vaccines given to children, which are the DTaP and the DTaP-HIB, that's HIB. It serves the same purpose there, except in this case it's removed before the vaccine ever gets near a patient, and so there are only trace amounts of it left by then. So what can you do about this thimerosal stuff knowing that it exists and that it's out there? Well, while mercury is a naturally occurring substance, it is also very dangerous when taken internally, even in small amounts. So in 1999, the FDA did investigate the amounts of mercury in vaccines given to children, and since then, just about every source of mercury, aside from the ones I've just mentioned, have been removed from childhood vaccines. So the answer to protecting your child against the preservatives that are left is very simple. What we did was we verified with our pediatrician that the vaccines they gave our son were the single-use kind. Therefore, they didn't contain preservatives at all. Since single-use vaccines are sealed until the moment they're used, they don't need those same preservatives that the multi-dose vaccines contain. And so there's no risk in that regard when it comes to thimerosal or mercury. Now let's talk about some general concerns that many parents have regarding vaccines, including the risk of autism and other serious health problems. Most of the information I'm about to share with you can be found on the CDC website, so feel free to check out the many resources available there if you want to look into things for yourself. While it is true that vaccines can cause minor reactions like injection site pain or swelling, serious side effects or chronic conditions derived from vaccines are exceptionally rare and tend to be accompanied by some underlying condition. Ongoing studies have shown no link between vaccines and autism. In fact, if you're looking for a great resource on autism completely unrelated to vaccines, I'll put a link to a great book on that subject in the description below. So what about the fact that doctors often want to give your baby multiple vaccines at the same time? Can this be dangerous because it becomes somehow too much for your child's immune system to handle at once? Well, our immune systems fight off thousands of potential pathogens each and every day, so there's almost no chance that having several injections in one doctor's visit is going to overload a baby's immune system somehow. It's a drop in the bucket, so to speak. Well, what about the natural antibodies babies get from their mothers before birth or afterward through breastfeeding? It's true these are a powerful element in giving babies tools to fight off disease, in that essentially a mother can pass off her own immunities to her child in this way. But again, these antibodies only cover what the mother is already immune to. They tend to cover minor infections like strains of cold and flu virus, and they tend to be temporary. So there's no guarantee that they'll provide that same long-term coverage for some of the more serious conditions that vaccines guard against. In fact, the diseases we've overcome as a society because of vaccines could make a resurgence if we stopped vaccinating against them. There are still huge measles outbreaks that have been happening recently in parts of the world where large numbers of parents are refusing to have their children vaccinated. This is a case where a vaccine is readily available and we could easily have this thing under control, but we don't because people don't see vaccines as a tool, and so they aren't taking advantage of them. So having said all of this, my personal feeling on vaccines as a whole is that if you want to go live in a cabin in the woods and raise your kids in the great outdoors, isolated from everyone else, then you do what you want. But if you and your family are going to live in the city or in the suburbs and be functioning members of society, and your kids are going to be interacting with other people's kids in schools and daycare centers and neighborhood pools and playgrounds and at the store, then we all need to do our small part to make life a little better for everyone. There's a speed limit because it's safer for you and for everyone else on the road. We wear seatbelts for the same reason. If you keep a spare tire and spark plugs in your trunk, or a first aid kit in your glove box, or extra diapers and wipes in your bag when you take your child out somewhere, or if you wear a life vest when you go out on a boat. These are all examples of preventative measures that guard us against the things that can and will go wrong in our lives. Vaccines are much the same, and yes, I know those other examples don't involve putting things into your body. But for me, it isn't about implementing a socialist state and forcing everyone to get vaccinated, just like it isn't about shooting off my guns in the air and screaming about my personal American freedoms being violated. I don't fall on either side of the extremist coin here. To me, vaccines are a safety net. Yes, there are some very, very minor risks involved, but welcome to life. There are risks involved in almost everything that we do, and often the consequences of being unprepared are much worse than taking that small precaution up front. That's why we've had Xander vaccinated, and that's why we will continue to do so, after making sure to have the right conversations with our doctors, of course, as he grows. Well, that's all we got for you today. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're a new parent or you're about to be a new parent and you're feeling completely clueless and unprepared, you're in the right place. We're not experts, we're just parents like you, and we want to share our experiences with you in hopes that they will help you along on your journey through parenthood. So if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for lots more fun and informative baby-related videos, and we will see you in the next one.